Hi, good morning. This is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. This is a channel that comes to you once a week with a policy analysis, a corporate story, and sometimes even a conversation. But at this time, it's a daily show on weekdays where we talk about news behind the news. We look at issues that some papers have not looked at. And the idea is to tell you which is the most important news according to us and what are the issues behind them. And just a couple of reminders. At the end of each show, we discuss question and answers. We look at comments that that viewers have posted. If you have any comments or any questions, post them. We take 2 or 3 of them and we look at them right away. There's a second reminder. As always, please remember to click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. Click the like button. It helps us. And most important, please tell your friends and everyone you know about us. Because we think that this is a bit of information that must reach as many people as possible. And today to discuss the stories for you, I have my co-anchors with me. I have Katya. Welcome, Katya.
Hello, sir.
Good to have you here. And I have Anurag. Anurag, nice to see you here. Today we're going to discuss 3 titles, and the 3 titles are on your screen. The first one is, of course, the Trump tariffs and how Canada and EU have actually retaliated. And the second story is on the UK-FTA. The second story is on the current Indo-Pak war, which has cancelled many flights and airports and has made the post-war scenario a little expensive. And the third story is one where we look at the UK-FTA and how the apparel industry is quite upbeat about it. Okay, let's take the first story. The first story is interesting in many ways. It's interesting because all of a sudden, contrary to beliefs that UK could have the way and bully everybody, Canadian exports to USA have plunged 6.6%. Imports fell about 2.9%. But in spite of that, Canada managed to export to other countries and has made up for the exports to other countries, making USA almost irrelevant to Canada. Discussions are going on, but Canada is clear that no matter what you do, if you try to put tariffs on us, we know how to manage ourselves very well. Simultaneously, the EU has got all the countries together and has said that if the tariffs are imposed after the so-called 90-day interim period, then they are ready with a list of products on which they hope to collect about 100 billion pounds, which is a $113 billion. And this is over and above the 28 billion that are already levied in retaliation against a 25% tariff on steel and 25% tariff on automobiles. So both the EU and Canada have told the US, try what you want, but we also know how to look at markets. And that takes me to the second story, which is equally interesting, but about India, about the Indo-Pak war. Katya, can we have your story?
Remember, sir, last a few episodes back, we discussed about a very little can affect our travel and tourism trend. Now we spoke too soon. The bad news has come. So the war that's happening right now, like the retaliatory strike that India is taking, it already has had an economic impact. The 300 flights have been cancelled. 25 airports, which are around the border from Bhuj to Dharmashala to a lot of touristy places, have been shut down. And this is a huge economic impact, mostly to top players like Indigo and Air India, because it is impossible for them to run flights right now as long as this is going in. Now, last time there have been articles which have actually said that The economic impact of earlier strikes have not been too huge. If you say the 2019 Balakot strike, it had ended very quickly, so the economic impact was very, very minimum. But even this will create a little bit of, it will affect the tourism industry as a whole. For one, Jammu and Kashmir, a lot has been invested, a lot of marketing money has been spent to bring tourists back. That is not going to happen for a very, very long time. And in the meanwhile, as long as these tensions exist, there is no timeline on it, the domestic tourism will also be hit, and so there is a huge economic impact already. This is in addition to the expenses of war. Wars, as Mr. Bhaskar always says, are very, very expensive. So this is the situation now. So let's hope it gets resolved soon, so that unlike the other wars that are going on across the world, so that we can have a peaceful and a happy time. Back to you, sir.
Katya, you're right. And there are many people who are now saying that this war could have been avoided if only we had put security forces in place at Pahalgam, which is the most important tourism spot for Kashmir.
Right.
There's no security there. Secondly, when the government knew that there were enough, that they had not reduced the number of forces in Jammu and Kashmir ever since the scrapping of 370. If you've kept the forces at the same level, it means that things have not become normal. Why did you allow tourism in the first place?
True.
I mean, both are questions that somebody will have to answer. And you're right. Wars are expensive, and we have not taken into consideration agro exports on both sides, whether it's cotton or sugar or what have you. And both countries prospered, benefited, and the relationships could have got closer. But now, both countries will pay a very high price. Pakistan will pay a higher price. That does not matter for us. What matters for us is that we are going to be bleeding too at a time when the economy is already doing badly.
Right.
Thanks, Katya. Thank you very much for the story. And let's go to the next story, which is Anurag's story. And Anurag has a very interesting story on the UK-FTA.
Good morning. Today's report is about the India-UK Free Trade Agreement and how the Indian textile and garment industry could benefit from it. At present, made-ups from home textile face an 8% tariff import duty in the UK, while woven and knitted garments, including baby garments, t-shirts, women apparel, as well as processed fabrics, attract a 12% duty. And with these import charges being lifted up, India's labor-intensive textile and apparel sectors could unlock additional export opportunities worth $1 billion from the UK imports. India's exporters have a golden chance to edge over China, which faces 12% tariff in the UK currently, but will now be at par with Bangladesh, which enjoyed zero duty access due to its least developed country status. The UK imports around 18 to 20 billion dollars worth of apparel annually, where China accounts for 21% of the UK's total apparel imports, followed by Bangladesh at 19%. Well, historically, India has held only about 5 to 6% market share in the UK's textile imports, which shall see a big change in the coming years. But the experts suggest that this incremental export opportunity for Indian apparel in the UK market may only materialize by financial year of 2027. India's exports to the UK in 2024 included $655 million worth of knitted apparel such as t-shirts, jogging shorts, and leggings, while woven apparel like shirts, trousers, and dresses accounted for $754 million. India has a big advantage with its inherent strength in raw material, unlike Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, who have to depend on imports of cotton and yarn. The textile industry could see a major boom as major competitors like Bangladesh, China, and Vietnam face comparatively high tariffs on US imports. And now with this new FTA with UK, it could benefit even more. What's your take on this, sir?
If the textile exporters' hopes actually materialize, it will be great for India. India used to be the king of the world, of the global textile industry, once upon a time. Government after government brought in restrictions on the textile trade, reserving things for the synthetic silk industry, reserving things for the businesses for the small scale industry. The textile industry was fragmented, it was broken. They need business, and India has not done much to help them grow business. If this works out, very good. But there are two caveats. There's something in textiles which is also called quotas. I do not know whether quotas have been dealt with in the FTA. There's a second problem, and that is also remember that Sri Lanka is a major exporter of textiles. Other countries will spring up, and China will immediately go to the countries where tariffs are low and put up the plants over there. Vietnam will put up the plants over there. Indians will put up the plants over there, like they did once upon a time in Bangladesh. The market is a very competitive place, and if India is not alert and the government does not create the funds to make sure that they can be flexible, we might lose this market. But yes, it's a good piece of news in the FTA if everything goes well. Thanks, Anurag. This is a good one. And that in turn gets me to some questions that have started coming in. But before I take the questions, just a reminder, click the subscribe button. If you've not subscribed already, hit the like button. And later when the show is over, please tell everyone about this program. And the first question is on tariffs. Why not? Tariffs is what has worried the entire world. The question is whether EU and Canada will be able to drive some sense into the US. I hope so. Getting sense into the US is not easy. I mean, one had so much of hope that the wars would be stopped within a week. Instead, the genocide continues and the US is complicit. The war in Ukraine continues, the US is incapable of doing anything. And so, we do not know how to change US's mind. Maybe the markets will teach US a lesson. What Canada has done, what EU has done, is very interesting because they're the biggest money generators for the US. And when these two players decide that they're going to hit back, the US might learn a few lessons the hard way. There's another question. What about the FTA with EU? Let me point out that the EU FTA is very closely linked to the BIT, the Bilateral Investment Treaty, which we talked about a couple of days ago. In the UK, the BIT has been shelved. They said, okay, we'll take that separately. Let's concentrate on the FTA. What's the BIT? The BIT is a bilateral trade agreement. It's an agreement to protect investments. This is only about trade, FTA. But when investments are concerned, trade is ephemeral. What you need is investments which actually set up production capabilities in the country. But when they put in money in the country, they need to make sure that the money is safe. And to make sure that the money is safe, they need a dispute resolution mechanism. The Indian courts are not good enough, so they want arbitration overseas. And the government of India does not want them to go overseas for arbitration. Remember that they already have one vexatious case of Devas Multimedia, which has won case after case after case overseas, and the government is pretty annoyed. So it does not want BIT anymore. And EU is linked to the BIT. UK, we've separated BIT, said we'll discuss BIT later. Until BIT comes in, many Western countries, including the US, will not invest in India. So that was about the BIT. And that takes me to the end of today's discussion. We've just finished our time limit. So I'll just take only 2 questions and have a wonderful day. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow once again at the same time, at the same place. Take care. Enjoy yourselves. Good luck.